Welcome back to part 2 of the top 10 best Batman-Superman fights. If you haven't checked out numbers 10 through to 6, I've linked to that first video below, but realistically, you don't have to, because we're getting into the top 5, which is way more interesting, even though it'll most likely have people turning on each other like rabid dogs in the comments. But don't do that! Be nice! Like all opinions, this is subjective, and it's okay if someone doesn't agree with you. Unless you're sure your opinion is the right one, in which case you are actually allowed to kill them with a brick. Legally and morally, you are in the clear. And of course, spoilers for all of these stories. The introduction of Batman and Superman in the new 52 Justice League is a fantastic tale in both animated and comic format, especially when you compare it to their first comic together. So this issue here, right, and I know I've sidetracked like immediately, but this will be quick. So they both appear on the cover, but their stories don't intersect. Can you imagine how disappointing that would have been at the time? And can you imagine if that happened in the new movie? But I would pay good money to watch the people watching the film as it slowly dawns on them that we're never getting that fight. Anyways, this features a Batman unaware of what Superman can actually do, just throwing everything at him, with only one weapon really having any minor effect. It also has a Batman who's smart enough to know when he's beat, opting for discussion when he realizes he is well in over his head. A luxury he is actually given by Superman that I doubt he himself would give to anyone else. Because you know, deep down and on a surface level, Batman is a massive prick. Superman Red Sun is an Elseworld story that asks the question, what would happen if Superman's capsule landed in the Soviet Union and then he grew up to become a benevolent dictator? The answer is, of course, he feels the wrath of Russian Batman. This Batman, it's assumed, is not Bruce Wayne, but someone else entirely. But being equally cunning, he sets up red heat lamps on an initially bemused Superman who's unaware of his own susceptibility to red solar radiation. What follows is then a severe beating. Batman, the clear winner here, intends to hold Superman prisoner indefinitely, and most likely would have without the intervention of Wonder Woman. Having the tables turned on him, and rather than becoming a lobotomized slave for Superman, Batman opts to kill himself, which is probably something the real Batman wouldn't do. Also, the real Batman wouldn't wear one of those hats with the ear flaps. But you know, that's kind of a shame. At number 3, we have the newest addition to this list, Batman Endgame. Superman and the Justice League, under the influence of the Joker, let loose on Batman in Gotham. Whilst he takes out the others effortlessly, well, you know, comparatively, Superman presents the greatest challenge. So what we get is a Batman in a power armor with miniaturized red suns in the gauntlet, courtesy of the Atom. But Batman normally relies on Superman holding back during a confrontation. But here, he just faces his full force, including having a building brought down on top of him. The fight ends with a piece of kryptonite-laced gum spat in Superman's face, and Batman stating that in these scenarios, neither of them win. Except I'd say that Batman having survived with all his limbs still attached to his body is a definite win. Now, a lot of you have probably worked out what my top 2 are. It just comes down to what order they're going to be in. So before we get into that, here are some honorable mentions. Superman Batman 23. Superman fights a Batman possessed by Kryptonite Man. Superman Batman 56. Superman, having swapped powers with Batman, that is to say, he has no powers, takes a beating from Batman until he outsmarts him. Here's a classic. Clark Kent and Superman share a bed in Superman Batman issue 1. No, it's not a physical fight, but these guys are, wrestling over those covers, and it does look very intense. The first time Batman met Smallville Superman, there's another one. That time Batman punched Superman once, and would have broken his hand if Superman hadn't have rolled with said punch. The time they had that verbal joust in that Pete Holmes Batman Superman video.
Look at you in your stupid outfit.
My father gave me this outfit.
And your dad's dead. Get over your dead parents already.
Didn't your parents die?
The time that Batman was dead, but then he was like being controlled by people playing a video game or something. I've actually forgotten the context of this one, but whatever. This comic here, probably other ones. Okay, that's enough of this. Number 2. The Dark Knight Returns is amazing, and it brought the comic book world a version of Batman unlike anything that had been seen before, and an amazing Batman-Superman showdown. With Superman merely trying to incapacitate Batman after being hit with a nuclear warhead, Batman just goes to town on him. Sonic weapons, electricity, kryptonite, punches. The lot, everything. That is before he fakes his own death in order to escape. Like I said in my part 1 video, Frank Miller does not write a great Superman, but this is an absolute iconic fight, both in animated and comic form. Plus it brought the idea to the table that with enough prep time, Batman can beat anyone. Batman Hush is my number 1 for a couple of reasons. Firstly, speaking to people on Twitter and Facebook and the like, this seems to be the one that people like the most. And 2, it's a super accurate representation of both characters. Even though Superman is brainwashed, he's still in there, desperately fighting against Poison Ivy's influence, which explains why Batman isn't just immediately a red smear on the wall. It also has Batman on the back foot from the get-go, opting to run instead of stand and fight. And despite him having zero time to prepare, he explores a number of options he's already had in place, including a kryptonite ring that he always keeps on him, tricking Superman into not using his heat vision, and putting Lois Lane in danger in order to snap him out of it. Which is like a terrible thing to do, but you know it works, so you know means justify the ends, whatever. Despite all these though, I still think there's so much room for more Batman-Superman fisticuffs. I'm thinking even some more iconic stories that maybe go Superman's way. There doesn't seem to be a lot of them, with most of these fights relying on him holding back the whole time. Maybe we'll see more of that in the upcoming Batman v Superman. They'll fight for a bit and then they'll be mates. Or maybe we won't. We'll never know. Thanks everyone, and if you liked this, I've actually made 2 videos that may interest you. One's called 5 Ways Batman Could Beat Superman, and the other is called 50 Ways Superman Could Beat Batman. I'll link those below and at the end of this video if you want to check them out. Also, I have a podcast, it's called The Weekly Planet, and it's out every Monday via the terrific comicbookmovie.com. People seem to like it. I've also linked that below if you care. But what's your favorite Batman-Superman fight, and why? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Alright, thanks everyone. Take care.